Welcome back to the City Current Radio Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're honored to be joined by our next guest, Tyler Cauble. He is the founding principal and president of the Cauble Group. How are you doing?
Jeremy, I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much for having me on. I love what you guys do, and I'm really excited to be here.
We definitely appreciate it. We get to talk all about commercial real estate, and you've got not only the investing side and what you do, but you've also launched a YouTube channel to help. We'll talk about that in a second, but give us some background, a little bit of history for the Cauble Group.
Absolutely. So I'm a Nashville native, one of the rare unicorns, as we were talking about. Grew up in Nashville and dropped out of UT, moved back here and got into real estate. And so that's kind of the story. Started doing that about 7 years ago when I turned 21. Started the Cauble Group in February of 2018 after I released my book, Open for Business. And now we represent business owners that are looking for space. We have landlords that have vacant spaces they'd like to fill. And we work with a lot of investors because Nashville is kind of the it market right now.
So yeah, you've definitely grown up in Nashville. You've seen and been a part of those changes. And talk about on your end what attracted you to commercial real estate, because I think when you talk about wealth, you always hear real estate is the number one place where people gain wealth and make their money. And so it's a booming industry, especially in Nashville. But what attracted you to the industry?
Right. I actually have a very unique path, I guess, is what I would say into commercial real estate. I'd never thought about even getting into real estate. When I moved back to Nashville, I started working as a project manager for my grandfather's construction company. And before that, before I'd gone off to college, I had done sales. And this boutique developer here in town heard that I was back. I had sold to him previously, and he just enjoyed that process. So he reached out to me, offered to pay for my real estate license, and gave me a shopping center and an office building downtown to lease. And so he kind of threw me into the fire and said, have at it. So it wasn't something that I was ever passionate about. And that's why I sought after commercial real estate. I actually kind of just fell into it, and then it became my passion after that. I got to work with entrepreneurs, opening their businesses and really shaping the city. That's one of the most fun things about what I get to do. So that's kind of how I fell into it.
Talk about some of the questions that you like to ask when you're sitting down with an entrepreneur or someone who's looking to lease or purchase or find the right office space. What are the questions you like to ask? And I'm thinking obviously geographical question is, one piece of it, but there's so many others. So what are the top questions you like to ask?
Sure. So the first one that I like to ask is, what's your story? Why are you doing this? Because it's so fascinating to hear why different entrepreneurs have chosen different paths. Because at the end of the day, to me, business is, 80%, 90% of businesses are the exact same, but that last 10%, 20% is so different. I love to see why these people have chosen the path that they have. And that's one of the most fun things about this job. I get to be involved in all of these other industries without having to be in those industries. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, definitely we kind of start off, depending on if they're office, retail, or industrial, who their target customer is. Do they need visibility? How many employees do they have? Is parking of a concern? We try to figure out, before we even start dialing in what part of town, what their actual needs are. Because if they're going to need, warehousing, we're not going to be looking in Davidson County. We're going to be looking in the outer lying areas. So that kind of helps shape the direction that we end up taking.
What are some of the trends when you look at, obviously, what we're dealing with right now with COVID-19? You're hearing that the dynamics might change with people more working from home, but then obviously as things return to normal, some of the office configurations will change. But what are the things in general that you kind of have a pulse on as major trends within the commercial real estate industry?
I think that's a great question because everyone's talking about that right now. Like you and I are having this Zoom call and everybody keeps saying, well, all these companies are having Zoom calls. Are they ever going to go back to the office? And, I think that's a very valid question. I think it's something that we need to discuss. And I think, at the end of the day, all of the businesses that I have spoken with, including my own, everybody, as soon as we could, is getting back into the office because, to me, there's a big difference in productivity for an individual and productivity for a company. And so, the office environment is just so much more productive for individuals. At least it is for me and my team and everyone that I've spoken to, because you kind of get out of that home environment. You get to get into a work mode and you're with other people. There's that synergy that comes from being around, all of your coworkers that you just don't get from a Zoom call. So I think that office is not going anywhere. I think that it might shift. Now, I think that people might have more flexible work from home schedules and, take Friday off, you work from home. Or, if you got a kid's soccer game, you can take off early, but you can work at 6, kind of catch up that way, which I think just makes sense, honestly. I also think that we're going to start seeing a shift to micro apartments. I think that these, 2, 3, 400 square foot apartments are going to continue to rise in popularity because for landlords, they can actually charge a higher price per square foot, which means they make more money, but the tenants are actually paying less overall. So that means, for these millennials, especially who don't really want to entertain in their places, they just want to go out and have all these experiences. I mean, I myself, I'm hardly ever home. I go home and I think, man, I've got 700 square feet. This is too big. I don't even use this. So, I think there's a big shift in that mentality there. I think that industrial is going to continue to rise. I mean, we have seen that, Amazon has exploded in the last 3 months, even though retail has dropped. And that's because of, distribution and online shipping. So that e-commerce sector is continuing to grow, which means industrial warehouses and, that last mile delivery, that's going to continue to grow. So I think those are going to be the biggest trends that you'll see kind of coming out of this whole COVID-19 experience.
What are some buzzwords or things? I was thinking like for a while, the blend and extend was something that was popular where you would extend and maybe get a lower rate by extending your lease terms. Are there any of those sort of kind of buzz phrases or things that are going on right now that are in more of the leasing realm and that side?
Not that I have started hearing yet, but one thing that I think that we are starting to notice is that businesses are going for smaller space. They're trying to, especially restaurants, there's kind of been a trend in Nashville over the last few years that unless you're some big national chain or you're some, massively popular chef, why do you need a 2,500 square foot restaurant? Make it as small as you possibly can, make it as efficient as you can, because at the end of the day, you're going to have a lot of dead space and you're paying for that. So I think, these micro apartments, micro offices, micro retail, I think that that's going to continue to thrive, especially as cities become more and more dense. You're going to stop. I mean, we've already stopped seeing production of these massive regional shopping centers, 500,000 plus square feet. It's just not happening anymore. But what you are still seeing is retail at the bottom of every apartment complex that's developed in downtown Nashville. And that will always lease up. It'll always thrive because you have so many customers upstairs that would love to walk downstairs and grab a burger or whatever. So I think, the smaller units just makes more sense.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Talk about the YouTube channel because you really are sharing valuable information and helping those who are looking at this as an investment opportunity, and you're teaching them. So you really are putting out some great content, but you're becoming a teacher and an educator. So talk about this kind of dive into e-learning.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. So, that was the shining star that came out of COVID for us, right? I had been spending 90% of my time out of the office regularly. So you think about how many things you start to fall behind on, and all of these goals and things that I wanted to achieve just didn't happen. And the YouTube channel was one of those. I've been thinking about this for over a year. I wanted to start a YouTube channel and start educating people on how to invest in commercial real estate. What are some commercial real estate investing strategies? How can you buy commercial real estate with no money? And then not to mention all of the leasing issues, because so many small business owners have no idea what triple net means. But that's in almost every lease that you're going to come across, or what common area maintenance is, or that they can negotiate free rent. And so I kind of wanted to open up the curtain for that. And so that's what we're doing. We're posting videos every week on the YouTube channel, helping everybody out. And, we got to do that because we had some downtime from COVID. So, everybody kind of put leasing on pause, which gave us a lot of time to sit around and go, okay, let's make this happen. We've actually got the time. We'll get everything structured and set up, and we'll start rolling with it. So it's been great. I love doing the YouTube channel. We're getting some phenomenal feedback on it so far.
Give me one. You can't obviously pick a favorite because they're all good, but give me one kind of top tip or something that you've put out there already that's a good teaser for the YouTube channel? So it could be investment related, or like you said, kind of breaking down some of the terminology, but give us one example. Give us a teaser.
Yeah, a little teaser. Okay, so our most popular video so far was a video that I did. It was 5 ways to buy commercial real estate with no money down. And a lot of people don't understand that there are ways that you can buy commercial property with literally no money out of pocket. And my favorite strategy of those 5, you're going to have to go to YouTube. You have to watch the video to get the other 4. My favorite one is getting the seller to pay your down payment. A lot of people have never even thought about that, but you can actually get the seller to pay your down payment. And I teach you how to do that on the YouTube channel.
So tell us what the YouTube channel is so we can all find it.
Yeah, so it's just under my name. So go to YouTube, search Tyler Cauble, and you'll be able to find it.
And Cauble is Cauble. So make sure everyone spells it correctly so we can find you quickly.
That's it.
Putting on your entrepreneur hat. So you as a business owner, give me one lesson that you've learned through COVID-19. And obviously, like you mentioned, just taking the time to do something that you've always wanted to do, like launch the YouTube channel. But how has this kind of changed the way that you look at your business and given you an opportunity to come out stronger than before?
So I think the most reflective idea that I've had over the last 90 days would be how much time I was wasting out of the office. Because I realized, I would take almost any meeting that came my way. If you reached out to me and you said, "Hey, Tyler, I want to get into real estate. Can we grab coffee and talk about it?" I'd say, absolutely. Like, I love talking about real estate. Let's do it. And, the last 90 days has, really shown me how unbelievably productive I can be without taking a single meeting. So I think moving forward, I'm going to be much more conscientious about my time. And so I've actually been kind of reading into this a little bit more. And there's this strategy, and I can't remember who originally came up with it. They only take those meetings on like odd months of the year, or once a quarter, they'll have a whole month where they'll take those meetings. The other 2 months, I'm only going to take meetings with tenants who are looking to lease space, landlords who need space leased, or investors. And that's it. And so, we're going to start implementing that. And I think that will significantly increase productivity.
Yeah, I mean, I think the older I get, I'm with you 100%, is protecting your energy and your time. And you do. I mean, you hear it all the time, is the more successful people take less meetings because they can laser focus. And actually what you've done with the YouTube channel really does help in that regard, because all of those meetings that you would have taken before, you can just say, go to my YouTube channel, like learn there, and that will tell you everything you know. And also too, you find out if they're serious, because if they're serious, they will go and they will learn. And then you can have a more meaningful, deeper conversation with them later on one of those odd months.
That is so true. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do right now. I'm like, what are the questions that I get asked all the time? I'm gonna answer every single one of those on a video and just start pointing that to these people. And if they want to dive further after that, then yeah, you're absolutely right. These people are taking it serious. Let's go grab coffee. It's such a smart strategy to do that, because that's one thing I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't realize is how much knowledge they have that people would love to know and would love for you to share. And we as entrepreneurs don't think about it because it's something that we do every day. Like, I had to get really conscientious about talking about the very basics of commercial real estate because I've been doing it for 7 years. So I think everybody knows what CAM is. I think everybody knows what, tenant improvement allowances are. And but that's the thing, if you're an entrepreneur out there and you need to start sharing your knowledge, because there are people that will follow you and they will love that.
Well, and to your point, you're crowdsourcing the content too, where you're saying, what are the questions that I'm being asked the most frequently? Let's start with those. And that's a brilliant place to start, is as an entrepreneur, just like you're talking about. If you get asked a lot of questions that are similar, that tells you right there, you've got something that people want. Use that as your opportunity to share it.
Exactly. And the great thing is it's going to be so easy for you to share. It's knowledge that you have up here. You don't have to sit down and write it out for 2 hours and then practice it over and over again and hope you get it right. I mean, sit down and just start talking about it,
Well, you definitely will be someone that we'll have to have come back on often and share wisdom and updates. But go ahead and wrap up and talk about your website, social media. Where do we go to learn more?
Absolutely. So if you enjoy reading, we are posting to our blog at least 2 to 4 times a week about, commercial real estate investing, all that kind of stuff. That's tylercauble.com/blog. You can follow us on YouTube. Just search my name, Tyler Cauble, on YouTube, and you can follow my channel there. But if you want to interact with me, if you ever have any questions about commercial real estate, the best way to get a hold of me is through Instagram. I'm very active on Instagram. I respond to every message I get, and that is at commercial in Nashville with underscores as spaces between the words.
Give me on your end related to Instagram, give me, your bit of advice for using Instagram for businesses. Cause I know this is something, it's a little bit of a sidebar, but you've used Instagram really well. And you were someone that said, hey, people didn't think that this would blow up on Instagram, and you've been able to prove that there's a valuable business model on Instagram. So give me one of your favorite, just random tips for Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely. When I got started on Instagram, I guess this was 3 or 4 years ago, my mentor at the time, who is no longer a mentor because he had this mentality, he told me no one would ever buy real estate from me through Instagram because commercial real estate is a relationship game. And, what he didn't realize is that this generation builds relationships online, and they love following their, entrepreneurs and businesses and interacting with them. It's a way for them to communicate directly with the brands that they love. And so I would say my one tip is be genuine and don't shove your marketing and sales down everybody's throats, because nobody wants to follow that. I think that's the one thing that made a lot of people want to follow me on Instagram, was that I showed the behind the scenes of commercial real estate. I told the story. So everybody knows what I do, but I'm not saying, hey, buy this building. Hey, lease this building. Hey, come work with us. I've never said that one time on my Instagram, but we've got over 12,000 followers.
Well, Tyler Cauble, thank you for all you and your team do. Greatly appreciate you coming on the show.
Jeremy, thank you so much, man. This was great.